right, recording started. What did I do over the past month? So I believe there was the optimization that was from last month. I sent a bug fix for the issue where beneficiary payments were not included in the in basically the payout in Hivemind. So if you had a post which had the wrong beneficiary, a post without beneficiaries, the total payout would not show the correct value. Basically, all of the beneficiaries would not be included in the payout, so
Oh
the
wow. Okay.
the value you would see was not the correct one. And literally, so if you made a post which had 100% beneficiaries, you'd only see the curator rewards. So as a user, you wouldn't actually see how much money the post
Oh
generated.
yeah, that's a bit deceptive.
So that's been solved. It's a merge request and it has tests and everything ready to be merged. I started working on the beneficiary feature
So a
for.
quick question: did that
Yes.
require any changes to the indexer, or was it just
It did require changes to the index, but nothing to. It's basically the way it works is like payout equals author reward plus curation, and now it's payout plus author reward
okay?
plus
So it's
beneficiaries.
not doing any more. It's not introducing any more data. I mean, it's
No,
changing the data, but it's not extra work being done, basically.
no. The way well basically there is like a virtual operation which has like the author rewards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so we just added I mean, the field was already there for beneficiary rewards, and so we added that on top of it. I mean, I added that to be computed.
Okay, so it sounds like this. It shouldn't impact indexing speed.
No, if there
I'm
is
going
an
to be asking
impact,
this question every time there's an index change now.
no, there should be literally no impact.
Okay, great.
So yeah, then I worked a bunch on the beneficiary feature for communities, where you can set a beneficiary setting. I found out that you can set beneficiaries way after you made the post, as long as there was like no votes, uh, and so
Hmm.
that did create a lot of performance issues, because then I can just assume that everything is going to happen in the same block, um, which led me to the realization that we need to, in order to do that in an optimal way, we need to have a muted reason, which is also a good UX change regardless. So the muted reason feature is basically a new field in all of the API. I made an issue if you want to look at it. A new field in all of the, let's say, Hivemind API calls that return the post, so that you know why the post was muted. It's important for me because then I can like, if during index I already do some processing, then I don't have to redo it later. And it's useful just for general users, because now there is like 5 different ways as to how a post may be muted. And so it's important to just let them know why a certain post was muted. And that way, like, front ends can either choose to ignore a muted reason, like let's say a front end wants to allow low reputation members from being muted, or if they just want to have like a little icon to be like, why was this post muted? It's because you posted in the wrong community, or it's because a moderator muted you, or something like this.
Okay, so this would show up in like a list when you get like a list of posts too,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, yeah, there will be a muted reason which would contain like an array which is like enums, like, uh, and like on
okay, so
the
you could have codes for the different types
yeah
of reasons. Okay, okay, yeah, that's kind of
on the database side, we would just store like an array of numbers to, so that it's as like the number value of the enums, so that it's as small as possible.
hmm.
Um, And yeah, so I'm working on that. I realized that there was like 1,000 SQL queries that I had to change to add the extra field.
Yeah. So would there be a function to get like the list of the with the like strings associated with the reasons?
uh, I, I kind of figured I would add that into all of the libraries, but I guess we can add a function as well. That's a good idea, so that the front ends don't have to worry about it. I mean, so I was either thinking of adding like a function with strings, or directly returning the strings, like doing the translation
Yeah, I
within
think that'd
the
be a
call.
mess. Yeah.
But I'm afraid that like people will then start comparing strings, and
Yeah, I don't I agree. It's not I thought about it too at the beginning. But it would also be just a lot of data, right? That could get long.
I mean, we would store it in like number format, and then we would just return like do the translation as the
No,
output is
oh yeah,
generated.
yeah. Still, I don't. I think it's better to just. I agree. Let's just have codes for it, but we should have a way that somebody can look up what the codes mean.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah, I'll add that as well, I guess. Just like one thing where you query like muted reason and it restrictions all of the reasons. It's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think you can just pick up a list of all of them, and then you can use it in your own code
yeah, and
locally.
realistically, there will be like 10 of those. So,
Yeah, it also allows us to do like language,
oh yes.
language translation too.
So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I'm still in the early stages for that. The only issue that I have is that the muted reason is computed at two different places. So there is sometimes you get muted like directly in the database, like let's say if a moderator mutes you, or sometimes you get the muted effect
Because
when
of
it's
downloading.
no, but I mean, and you get like the post gets muted, but it's computed at query time. Like for instance, if you have -1 reputation, the post gets flagged as muted, even though the in the database it's not muted. So that means I'll have to compute that like muted reason list in two different places. But it's not
Okay.
the end of the world. It's just like the if someone decides to query directly from the HiveMind database, they may be a little confused. But I don't know that anyone is really doing that, and we want people to move away from querying the HiveMind database in favor of half, anyways.
Well,
So
I mean, HiveMind is half now.
yeah, I know, but like in the sense that we want people to build their own apps. Like you shouldn't want to like query HiveMind, and instead, if you want to have post information, you should just like build your own HiveMind, your own half application to do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's likely to be a mix. I think people
Oh, fair.
will have their own stuff at half, but I suspect front ends that are that are showing posts are probably always going to be making HiveMind functions. I suspect.
Yeah, fair. I mean, yeah, but those front ends are gonna call the HiveMind APIs, so that won't be an issue. I'm talking about
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a D app that's going to spin up a
Oh,
HiveMind
okay, I
node
got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Right.
then do
Okay.
SQL queries, like raw SQL
Yes.
queries
Yeah,
directly.
that's right. That's right. That's
And I
true.
don't believe anyone is doing that slash should be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they'll probably just they could be using the same SQL calls that are HiveMind uses. They just wouldn't
Sure.
be doing it through an API call.
What else? I believe that is it.
Okay. Let's see. I guess I'll cover what we've been doing next. Just some of it because it's been a long time, so it's been a lot of stuff. Um, just going through the list here. So one of the things we did along the way was if like if Hive crashes, for instance, or your computer shuts down, either one, and it can be in the middle of writing a block to the block log, which can leave you with basically a corrupted block log because it's only got half the block written to it. So we added added a command line option that you can use that'll detect that condition and automatically sort of throw away the half completed block so that you have a solid block log again without having to download a whole nother block log. Um, it does require a replay though at that point. So, but that's still better than having to. At least you don't have to download a whole nother block log from somewhere. Let's see what else. We made some changes to the JSON serializer. I won't go into that too much, just to handle numbers more standard way. This is the the JSON serializer that's inside FC, the library that used by HiveD. We're also working on the beginnings of being able to do block log pruning of various sorts. Basically, here the idea is you might be able to run like a light HiveD node that doesn't have the entire block log. So you could basically just have like the last couple blocks, for instance, or there's various alternatives here. There's been some discussions about it in the Mattermost channel. So probably most you guys here are aware of it, but just people aware, this would give us an opportunity to have special HiveD nodes that are very, very lightweight, don't require a lot of disk space to run. Let's see. We did some work on the crash handler. Again, I don't think this is in interest to most people unless they happen to be running HiveD nodes, but this will just give us better error reporting in the case of a crash and more. We had that before, but sometimes it didn't work so well. So this fixed some of those problems. We added an API to HiveD, which allows you to check the status of a node while it's replaying. So basically, while you're replaying a node, it'll tell you what block number it's on. So you can use this if you've got any, if you just have a tool that wants to find out how long before the Hive D node comes back into sync after the replay, you can use this API called a query it. It's basically the only API node that will work to a Hive D node will respond to while it's replaying before it's entered live sync. We're using it for various things like half apps can use it to check the status of the Hive D node that might be feeding them, for instance. But in general, anything that wants to talk to a Hive D node and wants to know how long before it's going to be ready could use this API call. We did work on the features that was requested in a post. The idea being that when you vote, right now when you vote, after you vote once, the next vote you have has less power, and the third vote you have after that has less power. And basically, your voting power dwindles temporarily based on previous votes because it uses how much mana you have. So this change allows you to basically vote full strength until you run out of voting power instead of just dwindling each time. So instead of taking half a step along the way and never getting to your goal, you can basically exhaust your mana pretty fast in your voting just by voting full power each time. So there's a bunch of discussions about this, and some people pointed out that that there was also a benefit to the old way, which didn't allow you to vote with your full strength. And I think the solution that Smooth proposed was that we allow UIs to support the option of voting without your full strength on the second votes and so on. So basically, we could still have front ends allow the old behavior, which didn't use your full strength of votes, and basically be an option as to how you wanted to vote. I hope I've explained that clearly. If anybody's read the discussions on the blockchain on the Hive post, they probably know what I'm talking about. But otherwise, feel free to ask questions about that now. Is that familiar to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I won't cover that more now then. We're also doing some work related to eventually making RC consensus. Not that we're doing it now, but there's preliminary steps that have to be done along the way. So we've completed some steps towards that. As to whether that'll actually happen, of course, will be up to the decision of the witnesses in the long run. We made some fixes to the account history RocksDB regarding getting reversible transactions. We found some problems there. Now, even though the account history RocksDB is mostly deprecated now, some people are still going to run it just because it's a little more lightweight than running a half server. So probably exchanges and things like that will still be depending on that plugin for quite a while. So that's why we made the fixes there. We added some documentation it's in the Hive repo itself. It's basically a bunch of MD files that describe all the various Hive operations that can be put into transactions. We added a bunch of tests to Hive. I'm not going to get into all the tests that were added. It's a bunch, mostly testing various Hive operations that we just hadn't got around to testing yet. We also made some improvements to the automatic testing system, the continuous integration system, in order to detect, in order to make the tests more stable. We've had problems where sometimes the test would fail, even though there was nothing wrong. Would somebody want to say something? I couldn't hear there. I guess not. So the other thing we're working on lately is Beekeeper. Beekeeper is basically a tool for storing keys in a secure way. They're basically stored encrypted in memory. And the idea behind Beekeeper is to have a common way that apps can hold keys securely. So we've got two interfaces for it nowadays. There's a binary interface for like desktop applications, and there's also a WASM-based version, WebAssembly-based version, which can be used by like JavaScript applications. So things like HiveBlog and PeakD and stuff like that could potentially incorporate it and store the keys that way. It was originally being developed for Clive, which I'll talk about next, I guess. So is it clear what Beekeeper is? I don't know if I explained it well enough that everybody understands the idea behind it.
Yeah, that sounds.
In theory, yes, but how does it work? I mean, is it a plugin, an extension? What is it exactly?
So it's the WASM version has a TypeScript interface around it. So WASM itself is, it's basically code. It's WebAssembly code. So sort of like lower level JavaScript, if you will. And it's got a TypeScript object-oriented interface. So basically, you would just incorporate the code into your application directly. It's like a library.
I love that it's TypeScript. I mean, it can be easily integrated to a JavaScript interface. That's fantastic. So it
Yeah.
could be an alternative to Keychain or just using the
That's right. That's right. It can be just a directly local library you use to manage the keys.
Awesome.
Let's see. So Clive is basically a command line interface wallet. So, but unlike the existing command line wallet, it has like I don't know if I say curses interface, if I don't mean anything to anybody, but it's like a console interface where you get to use the whole console, not just one line. So it's sort of a console user interface. And we've been adding features to it recently. So originally it just had the ability to do things like transfer funds. We've added a feature for savings, for managing savings, the saving features of Hive. We've added functions for loading and saving transactions. So this is for basically doing offline cold wallet signing and things like that. So that's going to be quite useful, I think. We also added features for governance because that's one of the other things that a lot of people want to use a secure wallet for, is for voting for witnesses and voting for proposals, and also for changing your proxy. It's also got we also have an interface that works more like a traditional command line tool, which is, a single line, and you can use that. Basically, you can control Clive through like a bash script, for instance, and give it commands through a bash script. So sort of for more automated wallet work if you want to write scripting for it. Oh, and Gandalf has just posted more info on Clive features, or posted on a post, so I won't go into it too much more detail. So bunch more fixes were done to it as well. And we've got, basically you can download it as a Docker, so it's super easy to just try it out. So I recommend people follow that post he mentioned, and you can actually just try it out real time and see how it works. Let's see. So another thing we've got is something called Wax, and this is like a low-level module that's we're using for other parts of or other tools, but it's a kind of common level. For right now, it supports Python and TypeScript. And this basically allows you to hook into a bunch of functions that are built into Hive itself. So it basically incorporates some code from Hive into a separate library. So you can do Hive-like things without having to talk to Hive. Let's see. What else? We made one improvement to Half-O, speeded up the performance of I'd say one of the most important functions in the account history, which is get account history itself. Matayari reported some cases where filtering account history was slow, so we speeded up that query quite a bit. Let's see. HiveMind, the two main changes to HiveMind, Howa mentioned one, we incorporated his changes for new community types. And Good Karma also added a feature for reporting reblog counts. So that's added to some of the queries. Let's see. Then I guess on Half itself, there's been quite a lot done. Half is where we've been spending quite a bit of our time. And so we've been doing a lot of performance improvements, experimenting with various ways to speed things up. I made a change to do async commits that speeded it up about 30%, the replay time for Half. And I'm also trying a suggestion from another guy here. Matayari had done some preliminary tests on it too, which was good. And he showed it basically twice speeded up. So we're running full tests now, which will allow you to basically, hopefully massive sync Half at about twice the speed it does now. And let's see, there's been a lot. We've also figured out a bunch of other things that speed things up. We figured out how to speed up the time it takes to, when Half reindexes from massive sync, it has to create a bunch of indexes in your database, and that usually took hours. And so we figured out And then it also creating foreign keys takes several more hours. So we figured out a way that we don't really need to verify the foreign keys during massive sync. And that basically cuts a couple hours off the massive sync time, just doing that alone. Then they get checked afterwards, though, during live sync. Let's see. So many things in half. It's hard to find all the changes. We added support for recognizing Hive for basically structural, like record types on the SQL side for Hive operations. So this will make it easier for people who are writing half apps to basically process Hive operations without having to write their own code for doing that. Let's see. We added a bunch of the default plugins to the Hive D node that's used by Half. So basically, you'll be able to use a single Hive D node both to feed your Half server and also to reply to API calls. So we're basically trying to make a Half API node as small as possible in terms of resources. And along the same lines, we created a new repo called Half API node. And what that repo does is it's a pretty small repo. Basically, it's a bunch of Docker related stuff. So it allows you to use Docker Compose to basically launch and run a Half API node, basically an API node, a Hive API node that has everything configured to be a public API node. As part of that, one of the implicit ideas is that you'll be using ZFS for your file system. So what we'll be able to do is basically deliver ZFS snapshots of a fully in sync API node. So if you want, instead of doing a full replay on your own, which will take days still at best, you'll be able to just download one and have it running really basically in the time you can download it. It'll be pretty much the time it takes to get it started, maybe 5 or 10 minutes or 20 minutes after that to sync up, but really, really quick. So we should be able to launch get Hive API nodes running very, very quickly once this stuff is all done. It's pretty close now.
Can I just ask you a quick question? What's the front? What are you using as the reverse proxy at the front? Is that included in the Docker Compose?
It's configured. Yeah. So it's actually a kind of complicated question. There's several things being used. Caddy's being used for rate limiting. We've got Juicy in there for handling the old style calls. We have Varnish in there for handling the new style calls. So we've actually, I guess I'll bring that up. We've actually got 2 different types of API calls now. So we've got the old sort of JSON API calls still supported, but the new API calls we're all doing is REST calls. So that's why Varnish is there. Varnish is there to basically cache the new style calls, and we use Juicy to cache the old style calls. The JSON.
And is all of this made relatively simple with Docker Compose?
Yeah, the whole thing is it sets up the entire. When I say it sets up the entire node, I mean it sets up the entire thing. So with Docker Compose, they've got things called profiles, and a profile is like a set of applications Dockers that you want to launch. So we've made up different profiles for different things. So like there's a basic profile called core, and if you just use the core profile by itself, you just get a Hive D node and you get a Half database, and that's it. Then there's another layer which we call admin. If you run admin, if you add the admin profile, that'll add a PG Hero and a PG admin Docker. And basically that means with those, PG Hero is it's like a web interface to your database that accumulates statistics on the API, the SQL calls, the SQL queries. So you can use that for analyzing the performance of your database. And PG admin is another web-based interface for communicating to a database, but it's more in terms of administration. So PG Hero is really focused on optimization of queries and identifying performance problems, whereas PG admin is a more generalized tool for, exploring your database and making changes. So we use those quite a lot in our work in Half. So we have those as options you can set up. So even if you're not doing development, I think a lot of Half API node will probably find it useful to run those too, just for analyzing problems if they have any performance problems on their server for whatever reason. Then there's another profile called apps, and apps will basically start up a bunch of the standardized applications that we're seeing half API nodes will typically want to run. So right now that's HiveMind, Halfa, and also the new Half Block Explorer API. So those three apps will be added if you add that profile. And then we have a final profile called servers. And the servers profile is basically addresses the question you were asking, Brian, which is about setting up like the proxies and things like that. So servers adds things for Varnish, for Caddy, for Juicy, etc. So that one's basically if you want to expose it to, when you're looking to expose it to the servers layer is when you're looking to expose your interface to external people or to external sites, web servers. So does that clear enough? Anybody have questions about any of that?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm hoping to look at.
So yeah, I mean, basically my goal here is to have it so it's very minimal steps to set up your server. You basically do something like first create a ZFS pool, and then we've got a script that basically lays out that pool, sets up all the file systems on that pool, and then after that you can basically just run a command, a Docker compose command, which will start fetching all the Dockers from servers, and you basically have a system up. And then you also probably want to fetch a snapshot to fill it up with current, or you can replay from scratch. It's up to you. It does take a while to replay though, everything. But I think we did cut down quite a bit just recently the time. So I think HiveMind, like I said, we've probably cut down HiveMind replay as well as half replay and half. I haven't got the final numbers yet, so I can't report them with complete confidence, but I believe it's going to be about twice as fast. So probably, I think we're talking, it went from about 4.5 days to about 2 days and 10 hours now for a full HiveMind replay. Let's see what else. Probably missed a few things. We've been continuing to do a lot of work on the Half Block Explorer. So there's a dedicated team working on that. And there's two parts to that. There's the back end, which is basically all the API calls, and that'll be generally useful to anybody. So I think even other block explorers will want to use those calls. I think they'll be useful because they should be more efficient than the calls they're likely to be able to do now to do analysis. And then we've also working on the front end for it as well. So one of the things added recently was the ability to do like searching blocks and searching posts and comments. So that's a little heavyweight though. So I'm personally still wondering if we shouldn't move that to a separate application, but we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I don't want to get into everything else we've done. We've made a lot of changes on the CI side, continuous integration, and a lot of things to make things lighter weight, consume less resources. But that's probably enough talking for me now. So I'll pass it on to anybody else want to discuss what they've been working on recently.
Actually, I have questions about your stuff, and also.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Also, one thing I forgot to mention is in HiveMind, there is another merge request ready to merge, containing like a helper tool to basically push mocked blocks. Like, I found out that when I'm walking, it's quite difficult to just add like one extra block with one operation. So sometimes you want to just test your query just once. So I made that. It's just a simple helper tool where you just execute it and it's going to increase the block by 1 and then populate that to half and then HiveMind.
So what is it? So it adds another block, a mock block, but what's in the block?
Well, whatever you want. Basically, you pass it as param like a mock block, and it's automatically gonna figure out what block it should be, so that it just gets added to the next block ahead of what's currently synced on HiveMind.
Okay, so is this a script or how does it work?
It's a standalone Python script.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like a wrapper over populate mocked blocks. Basically.
Okay, I saw the commit. I mean, I saw the merge request. I hadn't looked at it because it's in the testing side of HiveMind, which I know very little about. So I kind of left it to Bartek to look at. I don't know if Bartek Bartek, did you have a chance to look at that yet?
I didn't see it yet, but I will take a look on that, and also separate merge requests from how which one were made there. So
okay, sounds good.
And it's really not urgent to merge it if it's important to merge at all. It's a tool that I find myself useful, and maybe you guys will find it useful as well. But really, if
sure. If I made tests, I would definitely probably use it.
So yeah, I mean, I pushed it because I made a bunch of other scripts like this, like one to dump and redo the database and stuff like this, and this helper script felt like it could be useful to others, so I pushed it. But if you feel like it's not if not that useful, then I'd be happy to drop the merge request.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the other thing. And regarding all of the work to have quote unquote late nodes, do you think that would apply for history nodes or for witness nodes? What's the use case here?
So I mean, it's kind of open. We haven't really defined it well yet. So I really wasn't intending it for use in witness nodes at all. I think witness nodes, at least, I think witnesses should keep all the blocks personally. But for other nodes, I mean, there's a lot of other nodes out there besides witness nodes, right? So sure. every application, I mean, that's big time should probably consider running their own node, I think, just so they don't load down the other, the public nodes. So nodes like that. But so now when if we lower the cost for those guys to run their own node, it would make much more sense for those guys to run their own node. And also the idea of your personal node, right? You may just want to have your own personal node to totally trust your, situation better. In that case, every Hive user shouldn't be consuming 500 gigabytes of data to run their own local Hive node.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Actually, our intention was to make that option, especially for half nodes, because half requires a lot of space, and making free another 400 gigabytes because of missing block lock could help here. So I hope that could be useful.
I'm currently running Hive consensus node on a machine that eats 7 watts of energy, 8 up to 10 when it was syncing. But the biggest limitation is that I need a big drive here. So that would be perfect use case.
Yeah, I see. Okay, pretty cool. Yeah, that's about it for my questions/updates.
We probably won't beat your 7 watts, but I mean, when I saw the tutorial by BlockTrades about the half API node, I mean, we wanted to upgrade our Activate Hive API node for a while. So this came in handy actually on time. So we just rented a 4 terabyte server. We're going to be setting it up. So I'm hopeful the process goes as smooth as it's explained. I think it should be, but yeah, we're going to try it out over the coming days.
I'll say we're still making improvements. I'd hope to release this a week or 2 or 3 ago. Okay. We keep just finding improvements, but I think we're down to the last little bit. So I'm hoping within a week or 2 we'll make an official release. I know just very few things left that I need to be addressed. I mean, it works now. Don't get me wrong. You can set it up now, but we still like the speed ups, for instance, haven't been yet merged in yet. A couple of speed ups haven't been merged in yet, so it still takes quite a while to sync HiveMine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we're gonna give it a test.
Yeah, absolutely. And if any feedback is useful. It's we're doing a lot of testing in house. I've got probably 7 monster machines that we use for testing, and I usually try to keep at least 4 or 5 of them running with tests, at any given time. But outside testing is always useful because outside people always try things a little bit differently than what we do. So that way we find problems, that it identifies problems we don't even know they're there because we never tried to do something quite that way.
Yeah, I agree. And regarding the Block Explorer, we're going to be setting up also another one. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I mean, we're going to reuse the code that you guys have. Is there a test environment right now that runs the front end so that we can at least have a look at how it's functioning? And maybe set up our own node so that it interfaces using the same GitHub?
I'm going to let Bartek answer that question.
Yes, of course. We have that instance, but it is available internally. But we plan to publish it soon, and I hope it can be available in maybe next 2 weeks.
Okay, so if let's say we set up the half node, the half API node, we can connect. I mean, once we set up the GitHub clone of your repo, we can connect it to the half API node, and then we can start hopefully running a block explorer, testing it out, and seeing how it functions.
Actually, you can, of course, start Block Explorer, and because it is a regular half application, and you can also start UI. Both parts are Dockerized, so processes should be repeatable and succeed also at your site. So yeah, that should be possible, and I hope documentation written there is sufficient to be repeated by you also. If not, please write some issue there, and we will try to improve documentation.
So just to sort of give you the way I would do that right now, you'd first go to the half API node repo and read the instructions there, which is basically telling you how to set up your half API
Yeah, they're
node.
very clear. Yeah, I went through them. They're very clear.
Yeah. So so that'll give you basically, if you configure for the apps, you'll get the half block explorer as part of that. So it'll sync up your half block explorer, and it has to replay just like the other app, just like Hivebind. Yeah. So once it also takes a few days, but once it's replayed, you basically have the API support, and then you just run the UI in order to talk to it, and you basically at that point you have a web server. You have a front end running with the Block Explorer.
Excellent. Okay. Because for me, I mean, I just I cloned the Block Explorer front end, the UI, and I tried to run it, and of course, it needs an API for the Block Explorer to read.
Yes, that's right, and that's in the half. That's the half API node part. We'll give you that.
Excellent. All right.
The important note for Block Explorer, both Block Explorer repos is to use develop branches.
Yes,
absolutely.
Very good point.
yeah, I'm always using that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Maybe I'll share a quick update from our end.
Yeah, sure.
I might have mentioned several weeks back. I mean, we've been trying to revamp the notifications for ActiveIT, and we tried to use the blockchain notifications, but we found a few issues. I think I mentioned them on a call. So I mean, right now we are parsing the whole blockchain on our own for ActiveIT. So we revamped our notifications. We're not using Half yet. But I mean, we set up some sort of a Firebase push notification system. So we just set up a whole new approach to notifications, and we launched a Chrome extension for notifications for the whole Hive ecosystem. I'm not sure if you guys saw it. It's called Hive Alert. It's not core development, but it's something that because I mentioned it before, so wanted to share it quickly. So anyone who wants to get notifications on their browser, they can use that with the Hive Alert Chrome extension. It's open source, of course, and it's not Half. It's it's push notifications via Firebase, and we're just parsing the whole blockchain for that.
Okay, well, I mean, that's, Half is doing a similar thing, so it's not, it's the same, I think, at some level, just a different technique.
Yeah.
And I guess I should also think, I mean, we call this core dev, but I mean, I think it's all stuff that anything that I think this meetings are about any kind of software that, all the apps are interested in. So yeah, libraries of general, I think libraries are certainly, I consider it our core. Any kind of thing that's used by apps developers, I think, is what these meetings are supposed for. So
yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, great.
I initially made sure to call this core dev because I didn't want this to turn into like a town hall where all of the DApps would share their let's say advances on something that only concerns a DApp. But now that it's been a few years, everyone pretty much got the thing. So anything that concerns every other dev is free game, in my opinion.
Yep, exactly. Looks like Arcane's just joined us as we're about to finish up.
It is good that we waited for him.
Hello. You can close the door behind you, Arcane, once you leave.
All right, anything from anyone? Okay, then I guess this is it. Well, see you next month, and I look forward to your review notes, Bartek.
Sorry, quick question. Block trades. You had a release candidate coming soon. Is that planned still for December, or would that?
Yes, it's still planned for December. It was planned for like 2 weeks ago, but soon. It's still planned for quite soon. Okay. I would like to say next week, but I'm kind of shy at this point of saying that after being burned a couple times.
Classic.
Yeah, looks like we're gonna have fun over the holidays.
We'll try to avoid that at least.
All right, cool. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
See you.
Bye bye.